Continuing on how to build an emissions inventory, this is a tutorial for one of the tools that we have developed, VAPIS, Vehicular Air Pollution Information System. The fundamental equation, as we discussed in the earlier video, total emissions are calculated using activity data multiplied by emission factor. In case of transport sector, the activity data is your total number of vehicles and how they are moving on the roads. So this translates into how many trips a vehicle makes, or how many kilometers the vehicle travels, or how much fuel the vehicle consumes either on a daily basis or on an annual basis. Another important factor is the input is the emission factor. This is defined in terms of grams per kilometer traveled or grams per liter of fuel consumed. The emission factor itself, it's not as simple as its unit definition. It depends on many factors. Every vehicle has a different emission factor. Every fuel type has a different emission factor. If the vehicles are maintained, they have a better emission factor. If the vehicles are not maintained, then the vehicle engines deteriorate faster and the emission rates will be much higher. The emission factors also depend on your local road network. If the roads are way too congested, then your emission factors per fuel consumed will be very high. Or if your roads are not maintained properly and you have lots of stop and go situations, then your emission factors per fuel consumed, per liter of fuel consumed, will be very high. The emission factors also depend on your vehicle usage and vehicle age. If the fleet is very old, then the emission factor will be old. The emission standard will be old, which means your emission factor from the engine is going to be a little bit higher than the newer fleet. Vehicle usage, of course, if the vehicles are used much more than their intended lifetimes, then you have a much higher emission factor. So multiple factors affect what you use as an emission factor, and a lot of studies have been done in putting together these databases. In general, trying to find a emission factor database is a challenging task. So on our emissions VAPIS website, you will find a database of different types of emission factors available from different countries. We have also summarized the emission factors, and here is an average emission factor for different pollutants for different types of vehicles and 3 different types of fuels. I'll go through some of these databases. An interesting one here, a study done by World Resources Institute, or WRI, at Embark. A study was done in Hanoi. If you browse through the website, and in this report, at the end of the report, there's a nice little summary of emission factors for different vehicles and fuels. This is a program by YASA called GAINS. If you go into RAINS Asia or GAINS online documentation here, so you will find a lot of databases of emission factors for not only transport, but also for other sectors as well. Tremove, this is another EU-based software for transport emissions inventory. This also has a good database of emission factors. Here's one of the really good ones, also from EU, from European Environmental Agency. If you go through the document for road transport on this page, you will find a lot of interesting stuff. I'll click on one of these. In the document, you will find a lot of databases on what are the emission factors available for different countries in EU, what are the uncertainty estimates, what are the different types of databases available, how do they calculate emission factors for different types of fuels, what kind of correction factors are they assuming. So a lot of information is available in this document for not only just one pollutant, but different types of pollutants. So for example, here under different vehicle speed conditions, what kind of emission factors are available, hot emission factors, cold emission factors, emission factors based on kilometers traveled, emission factors based on fuel consumed. So a lot of databases are listed in this document. So I advise you to go through these. Another software called Heat Harmonized Emissions Analysis Tool Plus. You can get a guest access, and they also have a good database of emission factors for you to use. Here's another program called Copert. This is not a free software, you have to buy. but they also have a very detailed databases for use. Central Pollution Control Board in India, they have conducted a source apportionment work, and they have listed emission factors for vehicles based on tests that were done in India. So all those things are listed here. So if you go through vehicle source profiles for emissions inventories or emission factor development for Indian vehicles, these documents have a lot of details. Take a look at that. This is another program called Diesel. A lot of heavy duty, light duty vehicles were tested in Bangkok, and those details are presented in these documents. Here's a study, is an emission factor database from UK. They also have methodological input information, so it will be nice to go through these links. Here's another program from SEI, Stockholm Environmental Institute. So this is an emissions inventory calculator, not only transport but for a lot of other sectors as well. This is freely available on the website that you can download and use. This program pre-compiled and has a emission factor database from Coronair that we just saw, and also from the US EPA website. So the US EPA website is here, AP42, a lot of emission factor details, more pertinent for US, but can be adapted if you don't have any other information in your country. Another tool called Moves, also from US EPA. This also has a lot of default emission factor database that you can use. So the point is, you start with any of these databases and see what emission factor works for you under your conditions, and that will be your first order emissions inventory. After that, you can start doing surveys on how the vehicle maintenance is in the city, how the road network in the city, how is the usage and the age mix in the city. Then you can have your own correction factors to these emission factors, or you can go ahead and do some of the tests in the city yourself to build a emission factor database